I'm Maya. I go by she, her.
Welcome to Spread the Word, a podcast brought to you by Biz. Our mission is to interview and share perspectives on gender to our community. You're here with Audrey, Cindy, Ahana, Isha, Liz, Serena, and Aaron.
Today, Maya and I are discussing women in the military and sexism in sports. I also wanted to clarify one thing before you hear the episode. So first, when we talk about gender's role in sports and military, like registering for the draft, we're referring specifically to the biological differences between the male and female sexes, rather than the idea of gender as a social and cultural idea. I realized my wording was not always clear throughout the episode, so I wanted to clarify that, and I'm really sorry if it's a little confusing. That was all, and I hope you enjoyed the episode.
I'm really excited for this interview and this episode.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think it's such an interesting topic and I just want to hear more about it. So, number one, what are your basic beliefs on gender equality and gender roles? Do you believe the US or the world has achieved gender equality, and why or why not?
I don't think that they have achieved gender equality, specifically in the military. Like when I was growing up, how I really, really wanted to become a Navy SEAL. And that was in like 2013. And it wasn't until like 2016 that they were even opening the doors for like females to be allowed to do that. And like grade school, you could tell that like even the young kids were being taught like certain gender roles that they were just like falling into place. I don't think gender equality has been achieved in the US like at all.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. Definitely, like even when you're young, reinforced in school and stuff, and probably at home for most people. So yeah, I think that's very valid. Second, how has your family/home life influenced your views on gender roles? Did your parents enforce typical gender roles, or were they more like, you can do whatever you want?
I think it was a lot of like you could do whatever you want, which I'm like really, really grateful for, especially since I have two other sisters, and when I was born, I was supposed to be like the boy that like my family wanted. So I don't know if that like played a huge part, but that's what they were expecting. That's what they wanted, I think. And my dad, he also worked at he taught a class at like some gyms. He ran like a couple of small boot camps. And so when I was younger, I kind of grew up in that environment, kind of like that more athletic wanting type child, or like more sports motivated. On top of that, like one thing that really like pushed me, I guess, was like beating the boys when I was growing up. And I would say my parents really, really liked that, or like were impressed by that, I guess, or like nurtured that competitive nature and like didn't really care if it was like more stereotypically like boy things. But of course, like my dad, he would like sometimes call me out on things that like weren't ladylike. But I think overall they were supportive of like whatever I did.
I think that's really cool. I also have two sisters, but I was
Mhm.
the oldest, so my parents were saying like, oh, we didn't care what gender, like we weren't expecting a specific gender, like they just wanted a kid. We didn't grow up playing with Barbies and stuff. We were always messing around, like running around, and it's a lot more physical, I think. But I thought that's really interesting. That's very cool. Okay, so sexism in sports. In what ways do you see inequalities or gaps between gender in sports, both professional sports and school sports?
Okay, so I started soccer when I was 3, and during that time, soccer was like co-ed. And then in second grade, I wanted to do club soccer. And so not enough girls had signed up for the travel team that was like closest to me. So I ended up actually joining the boys team, I thought that was pretty cool. And I remember there was only like 2 other girls. And even then, it wasn't like all the guys were like, oh yeah, more team players. They were kind of like, what are they doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was one part in my life, I guess, that like I saw that like boys and girls weren't like treated the same in sports. I guess I'm really grateful for like the coaches who were there, because even when they would see like the boys kind of like hassling the girls, for lack of a better term or word, they would like say something about it. I remember like when I came to fitness testing, like the annual like fitness testing in PE.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was like really, really motivated by those. Like I really, really wanted to do like have a great score.
Mhm.
So I remember I would like try my absolute best, again, like just to beat like the boys in the class. And I remember when I did end up like beating other boys, I would always go to like the girls' locker room and they'd be like, yeah, they would be like all excited.
Mhm.
But like then they would like, I don't know, they would kind of like try to demean that. Like they didn't count when you like touch the ground, like when you're doing the push-up and you like laid on the ground for a second more, like it
Oh,
didn't actually count, or you didn't do this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't
yeah.
know, things like that. I feel like it was never like adults telling me like
Mhm.
you as a girl can't do this, which I am like really, really grateful for. But it was mainly just my peers and mainly guys in sports who are like giving me trouble, I guess, or like pushback.
Mhm. I think, I think it's really cool that your coaches like spoke up when you said the boys were hassling the girls and stuff. I think for me growing up, because you said it was more of your peers kind of putting that pressure on you. I think for
Mhm.
me it was kind of more adults. I'm Korean, like Korean entertainment and like shows, it's very stereotypical gender roles. And so that was kind of ingrained in me. And then number two, with the testing, like how the girls were picking apart every little thing and like saying, oh, that doesn't count or whatever.
Oh no, no, no. That was the guys. Like the
Oh, the
girls were
guy.
like so excited, and then it was like the guys who were like, "Oh no, you didn't count. It's only because you're a girl that they're like letting it slide, you know?"
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense because I was gonna say, I don't know, like girls kind of picking on other girls is not cool, but uh, I definitely think that girls are put under way much more scrutiny and much more. Every little thing has to be perfect, otherwise they're gonna count it against you. Whereas with guys, you don't face as much pressure. I think especially in sports, and then also politics, like stuff that isn't usually the women's field or whatever.
Yeah.
There is also like this one Californian Senator Hannah Beth Jackson. But she apparently, when she was really young, she was like the best baseball player ever within her town or
Mhm.
whatever, like even with the boys. But she couldn't join the Little League because she was a girl and they weren't allowed to. I just think if she had played, would she be a world star athlete or something?
Yeah. Oh, just little things like that are like so frustrating.
I know. She had so much potential. I mean, she's still a very cool person because she's like a senator. But like, yeah. So that kind of goes into my second question, which is, do you think sports teams should be co-ed or separated by males or females?
Okay, this might be like a hot take, or maybe not, I don't know. But I think physically, males, people who are born male, have a different build than like people who are born female. And so I think it should be separated in that aspect. And just because of that aspect, no other factors like
Mhm.
super play a role in like why I said that. But just purely off of that like one fact, I do I do think so, but that shouldn't play a role in like how much they're paid, or like what kind of like airtime they get, or like that shouldn't affect like any other aspects of like how they're treated. In more like physical body contact sports, that's where I think it should be. And I don't know, I might be wrong on this, but that's my opinion as of right now, and it might change.
Mhm.
But yes, like less contact sports, like you're saying tennis, I think should be co-ed. Or
Yeah.
I don't know, again, like I'm not super well informed on like all the sports, but
Okay, so then now growing up wanting to be in the military, why did you want to be in the military / what experiences do you have like training with the Navy SEALs, and if it's not too personal, why don't you want to be in the military anymore?
Okay, I love this question. There's a lot to unpack here. This is kind of going like super far back. I'm talking like 2012, 2013. So my
Okay.
dad always had like an audiobook in the car too. Okay, so happened to be listening to a biography by or about Adam Brown, who was a Navy SEAL, and just listening to like all of like the physical obstacles he was able to overcome. I just thought that was like fascinating, and the story really framed Navy like the most badass people on the planet. And I was like, oh my god, I want to do this purely for the challenge. I don't think, to be completely honest, I don't think I was like that patriotic when I was like in third grade, but I just thought like, wow, this is a challenge, and I love physical challenges, so I want to pursue this. At the same time, I was training for a couple of triathlons, and it was just me and my dad training. Like, I wasn't on a team or anything, but the hardest portion of the triathlon for me was the swimming part. And so my dad was like, okay, well, we need to get you on like a team. We need to get you on a swim team so then you could be like more competitive in the triathlons. So I ended up switching over from soccer to swim. And this is the insane part. Okay, are you ready for this? I went to the place where they were just holding swim practices, and this was for the Tiger Sharks club team. And the coach Conrad, he was just getting a gauge of like where I was at swim wise, and so he had me do like a couple of laps and say, okay, yeah, she's really good at XYZ, and we'll work on this on the team, and yeah, she'll definitely be able to join the team. And then my dad, he goes, yeah, well, she's training to become a Navy SEAL. And I was like blushing so hard because I was embarrassed. I didn't want anyone else to know. I was like, are you kidding me? Why would you ever tell him? He doesn't need to know that. And this is where like this is the unbelievable part, because he goes, what a coincidence. I train Navy SEAL cadets at Great Lakes Naval Base in Illinois. And I was like, oh my god.
Wow. Wait, that's
And I know, like that was such an insane coincidence where our lives just crossed paths. And he said, okay, so at the time it was 2013, and he said, okay, well, females won't be allowed to even like be considered until 2016, July of 2016. And he said, but until then, I guess we'll just have to keep training. So he was really in support of it. So I am so incredibly grateful that like that person was in my life. um, so yeah, going forward, like I was like training hardcore, like really training hardcore. So 3 years being on the team, 2016 rolls around, and Coach Conrad, I think his wife got a job in another place or something caused him to like move. So he was gonna move, and he goes, okay, well, before I leave, I called up my boss and I pulled a lot of strings, and they're allowing you to train for 1 day with the Navy SEAL cadets, who I think were like 4 to 6 weeks into training. And I was like, oh my God, I like lost it. I was extremely excited. It was insane, because I was thinking in my mind, like, I'm gonna be with people who have like immeasurable mental strength on top of physical strength, and just like being with just like that other energy was like so exciting. Like I was so like jittery. And so the day finally came, and so I was at Great Lakes Naval Base. Keep in mind, this is June 2016. So I was 12 years old. I it wasn't until July 2016 that females were even going to be allowed to step on that training base that they were like working at, or like become Navy SEAL cadets. Like even the cadets, they weren't even allowed until like July 2016. So I was like, oh my God, like I'm a female here. I'm the only female here. I'm the only 12-year-old here. I was like bouncing off the walls. I was like, this is insane. Like, this is a dream. This isn't real. And so, like, I was sized for a weight vest and for a sandbag, and I went through the whole like training session with them, and it was such an incredible time. And I remember at the beginning of the whole training day, one of the constructors talked to my coach, and he said, "Oh, does she have sensitive ears?" And he was like, "No, no, no, no." And I remember at one point we were all holding our sandbags over our heads, and I remember the guy like right next to me had dropped it, and I kind of like I side-eyed, you know, and he was like destroyed in 2 seconds. Like I remember he was just being like sworn at left and right, like, oh my God, like I can't believe you did this. And I remember in my head like watching videos of this happening and just being like more excited that it was happening. Like, I don't know if that sounds like crazy, but and then at the very end of the day we ended with like a 6 mile like ruck pack march. And right as all the guys were leaving, I remember this one guy who turned around and whispered, he's like, "You're awesome." And I was like, yes. I just was like, oh my God, this isn't real. That was a great experience that I'm so grateful for. And I remember when I was leaving, my dad was like, if you ever tell anybody about this, they're not gonna believe you. Going to the second part of the question, why I don't want to be in the military anymore. I don't think it was like one specific thing that was like, oh no, like this definitely isn't for me. But I remember starting in like 7th grade, I kind of drifted away training my body and more towards like, this is gonna sound corny, but like training my mind. Where like and I wanted to start focusing more on like my academic standing as opposed to like where I was physically. And I think that kind of like I drifted away from like wanting to be in the military, which is crazy because at that time, like there was nothing that was going to change my mind. I was like dead set on where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do career-wise. But now I kind of want to be no, I want to be some type of engineer, like either like a biomedical engineer or something along those lines. And as of right now, I think I'm gonna stick to that. But then again, like I don't know, something might change my mind.
Wow. Training with the Navy SEALs before like women were even allowed to join. That's so cool.
Oh my gosh. And I don't know if you ever heard of the movie G.I. Jane. Have you heard of it before?
No.
Okay, so that was another motivator. It was a movie about, you'll never believe this, and it was about this woman who was a triathlete and who ended up being like the first woman to train. Well, like it was a movie, so it wasn't like real life, but she was like the first woman to become a Navy SEAL. And just seeing that was like another major reason why I like wanted to do that. Just like seeing how, again, like badass she looked, I was like, I want to be that. I need to be that.
They had to run however many miles and then go through like this thing wearing a gas mask. And that's crazy. I could not do that. So my like respect for the military and then veterans too, that like wow, it's crazy.
Truly, truly.
Yeah. Okay, my next question. Should everyone be drafted for the military regardless of their gender?
I think if someone really really wants to serve their country in this way, in this particular way, and they are willing to like die for their country and go through all of this, then why wouldn't you allow them to do that? If they really want this, then I don't see what's like stopping them.
Mm-hmm.
But this is such like a controversial topic. I remember same day when I was on Great Lakes Naval Base, my mom asked another staff member, for lack of a better word, I don't remember what his like official title was,
Mm-hmm.
but she asked him his thoughts on women in the military, and his response was like, there should absolutely be no women in the military, because if it came down to like a woman, my mistake, if a woman was injured and you like had to like leave her, it's much harder for like a man to leave an injured woman than it would be an injured man. And I didn't know what to like think about that. Obviously, like I disagree, but I don't know if I should term that or deem that as like a man's problem, which is like which doesn't that seems problematic. But I didn't know where to place that in my mind. I didn't think that seemed pretty logical, although like I kind of understood where it was coming from, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought like if that's the only thing holding them back, then come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure where to place that comment, because I've heard that argument like used again and again,
Mm-hmm.
but if you just mm, this is why I don't want to be in the military. I would never want to have to like make that decision of like me like leaving one of my teammates
Mm-hmm.
behind and just ooh, I don't think I can make that decision.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say like I think women should definitely be allowed to join the military, especially if they want to. As far as the draft, I think right now it's all male, like between the ages of 18 and something else. But okay, for me, logically, if you think about it, everyone, regardless of gender, should be drafted. That's my personal thought, but obviously, like I could be wrong. I could be missing information, you know? And
Same
then
here.
as yeah, and then as far as like leaving a woman versus a man if you're, in a difficult situation or an emergency situation, yeah, I don't know what to think about that either. I don't know if it's related to chivalry and like men having to protect women or something, but I think in my mind, if I were to be in that place where like someone had to leave me in the military, I wouldn't want them to be like, oh no, but she's a woman, like I can't leave her. If I was a man, like you wouldn't think like that, so just treat me the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just my personal belief. Okay, this is my last question. How have you seen toxic masculinity affect people you know, especially in regards to the military? And how do you think that contributes to like warrior culture?
Okay. So I could really only speak like for myself. Growing up, again, in like fourth through sixth grade, dead set on being a Navy SEAL. I remember guys who were like, they, I can't remember like specific comments they made, but I definitely remember getting like pushback of them being like, you can't be there because you're not going to be capable of being there. Or like, I don't think you're going to be strong enough or whatever. But on top of that, they don't want you there. Obviously, they don't. It's the spot's not open. They're allowing people to be there in like 2016. But again, like the reason why it's not been available to females until then is because they don't want you there. And I remember being like so upset by that kind of toxic masculinity of like, you're a female, not capable, they don't want you there, you're not going to be there, so pick something else to do when you grow older. It was like heartbreaking. It was so sad. And other than that, I remember like being affected. This is not really military specific, but more like athletic female specific. Going back to like fitness testing, or like whenever I did like excelled, I guess, for this sounds like, I don't mean to be like narcissistic, but like, when I did perform well in like gym, I remember some guys would try to put me down, like if they couldn't beat me in like whatever aspect we were working on in gym, and they would try to like put me down in another way where they would be like, now this is like horrible, but they would try to call me like a lesbian as like a derogatory term if I like did something. And that was, oh my God, I cannot tell you like how heartbreaking that was to hear that used as like almost like a slur towards me.
Yeah.
That was pretty heartbreaking. Or I remember like being, again, athletic. I had a pretty athletic build.
Mhm.
And I remember some guys would be like, and this, I have only ever heard this comment from a guy, where in 6th grade, I would be called like steroids. And that on top, that was like, are you kidding? Like in 5th grade, there's a point in my life where I was working out like 5 hours a day, okay? 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. Just because like I was working out with my dad because he was like doing like a boot camp, and then I had like whatever sport was going on at that time, like basketball and like middle school, and then after basketball practice I would go straight to swim practice. And like, so I think I earned my body like the
Yeah.
I looked. And again, it was only used to be like, the only way that you as like a girl could do this is if you cheat. Like that's the only way. And that was so condescending. Like I could not take like, oh my God, sorry, I'm not articulating this the way I want to, but just things like that, like where the only way you could win or beat a boy is by like cheating. Or like if I would say my accomplishments to like other people, like, oh my God, like I did X amount of push-ups in this time, they would be like, oh well, were they girl push-ups, or like did you count them all correctly, or things like that. Like I guess those are other types of like toxic masculinity encounters I've experienced.
I mean, people find so many ways to like make women feel inferior and like put them down. It's crazy. Like it's so creative sometimes what they say.
There have been so many of those experiences. I remember my dad going to like some gym, like some class or whatever, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll join you. This guy kept referring to me as like hun, and I was like, I was over it at that point, and I was like, okay, whatever. And he was like the instructor. He was like walking me through, like mansplaining all of these exercises that I've already done. Like like if you see me, I think from my personal perspective, I thought I looked fit, but he was trying to explain all of these exercises that I've already done. And then on top of that, he gave me like a 2-pound med ball to like do it with. And I was like, oh my God, I am done with this. I feel like this guy's so patronizing. And if I was a guy, this wouldn't be happening. But then again, I was a 6th grader, so maybe that like played a role in like how he treated me. But I don't know. Just I feel like it would have been slightly different if it was like a guy. But I don't know. I think I might be overthinking that.
I remember reading this article and like this guy was talking to this woman. He was being really condescending towards her. And he's like, you should read this book. It's blah, blah, blah. It's about this. But it was her book. Like she's the one who wrote that book. So she's like, well, that's my book. Yeah, this was cool. Thank you for being interviewed.
No problem. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so that concludes the 6th episode of Spread the Word. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed having this conversation, and if you want to be a guest on the podcast, there's a Google form on our Instagram, which is @Beas_IMSA, or you can contact any of the Beas members. We also have a YouTube channel where we post caption videos of the podcast that you can watch. Don't forget to spread the word, and finally, thank you for listening.